The first time I saw Princess Aranthvalis, she was standing alone beneath a ceiling of burning stars. Not real stars. Projections, of course, but crafted so perfectly that the Hall of Ascension felt like it opened directly into the cosmos. Constellations shimmered overhead, each representing one of the noble houses of the Celerin Dominion. The hall was filled with power. Tall, silver-skinned Celerin nobles stood in layered ceremonial armor that glowed faintly along the seams. Their elongated eyes shone like polished crystal. Each bore the sigil of their house across their chest, living emblems that pulse softly with genetic resonance. And at the center of it all stood the princess, Aranthvalis, last heir of House Valis, daughter of the late High Sovereign, unchosen. The ceremony was ancient. When a Celerin royal came of age, the noble houses would present themselves in symbolic alignment. One would step forward, kneel, and pledge alliance, political, genetic, and military. It was less about romance and more about continuity, stability, survival. But House Valis had fallen from favor. Her father's reforms had redistributed power from the noble elite to the outer colonies. He had expanded trade with emerging species, including humanity. When he died unexpectedly 3 cycles ago, support for his lineage withered. And now his daughter stood beneath the stars, waiting. One by one, the nobles turned away. No formal insult. No public condemnation. They simply stepped back when the herald called their house names. House Theron, no movement. House Kaler, silence. House Virex, eyes lowered. The air thickened with quiet humiliation. I stood at the edge of the hall, painfully aware of my singularity. Daniel Reyes, human envoy, observer only. Humanity had been invited as a gesture of diplomatic courtesy. We were new to interstellar politics, our voice small but rising. We had no noble house to present, no authority to kneel. And yet, as the final house withdrew, Princess Aranth remained upright, chin high, eyes blazing with something stronger than shame. It was defiance. The herald's voice trembled slightly. No house has stepped forward. A murmur rippled across the chamber. The implication was clear. Without alliance, House Valis would dissolve within a cycle. The princess would lose her claim. The hall would remember her as the royal no one chose. I don't remember deciding. I only remember moving. The sound of my boots against the crystalline floor echoed louder than it should have. Every head turned. The herald blinked. Human envoy, he said stiffly. This is not your. I dropped to one knee. The impact rang through the hall. Gasps followed. Celerin nobles did not kneel casually, especially not to a weakened house. I bowed my head. Princess Aranthvalis, I said clearly, my translator implant carrying my words across frequencies. Humanity may not possess a noble house within your dominion, but I will not turn away. The silence that followed felt infinite. I lifted my gaze. Her eyes, silver shot through with luminous blue, were locked onto mine. Confusion, shock, and something else. Hope. Middle. Consequences of a bow. The political fallout was immediate. Within hours, emergency councils convened. The kneeling of a human envoy, even one without formal authority, had symbolic implications. I was summoned before the Dominion's advisory circle. You have overstepped, Elder Kaler said, his voice cool as vacuum. You are not Celerin. I'm aware. You cannot form genetic alliance. I didn't offer one. Then what was your intention? I thought carefully before answering. To show respect. A murmur rippled. Respect is not binding, another elder said. Neither is abandonment, I replied. Silence. The Celerin valued strength, but they also valued courage. And what I had done, reckless as it was, could not easily be dismissed. After hours of deliberation, the advisory circle reached a decision. My kneeling would not constitute formal alliance, but it would not be erased. House Vallis would remain provisionally recognized. On one condition, I would remain on Celerin Prime as liaison to House Vallis for one cycle, under observation. In other words, I had tied my fate to hers. Princess Erin summoned me privately that evening. Her quarters overlooked the floating spires of the capital, their lights drifting like suspended galaxies. "Why?" she asked without preamble. I stood a respectful distance away. "Because it was wrong." "Wrong." Her tone sharpened slightly. "Yes. They weren't evaluating you. They were punishing your father." A faint tightening at the corner of her eyes told me I'd struck truth. "You risked your diplomatic standing," she said. "I know. You could have been expelled. I considered that." "Then why?" I met her gaze steadily. "Because no one deserves to stand alone like that." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, softly, "Celerins do not kneel lightly. Neither do humans." Over the following weeks, I became a fixture within House Vallis. Its holdings were smaller than the other houses, but not insignificant: orbital shipyards, agricultural moons, research installations. The problem wasn't resources. It was perception. Many believed House Vallis represented instability, reform, change too rapid. The princess worked tirelessly, reviewing trade agreements, meeting with outer colony representatives, projecting confidence. But whispers persisted. She is unsupported. She is weakened. Her house is fading. One evening, during a strategic review, I found her staring at a holographic projection of Dominion space. "You regret it," she said quietly. "What?" "Kneeling." "No. You should." "Why?" "Because I may fail." Her honesty surprised me. "You won't," I said. "You cannot know that." "No," I admitted. "But I know something else." "What?" They turned away because they feared what you represent. "And what is that?" "Change." Her gaze flickered. "Change disrupts order. Sometimes order needs disrupting." A faint, reluctant curve touched her lips. "You speak like my father." "I'll take that as a compliment." The threat. The true crisis emerged 3 months into my liaison. Dominion border sensors detected incursions along the outer rim. Not pirates. Not trade disputes. An organized fleet, bearing the insignia of the Terralith Combine. The Combine had long resented Celerin expansion. Their fleet was massive. Their intentions unclear. An emergency assembly convened. For the first time since the Hall of Ascension, every noble house gathered with urgency rather than indifference. Holographic projections displayed Terralith vessels advancing in calculated formation. "They test our response time," Elder Kaler observed. "Or they prepare to strike," Arinth countered. "You presume hostility. I presume strategy." Her voice carried authority now, not desperation. Some nobles listened. Others remained skeptical. "What forces does House Vallis contribute?" one asked pointedly. She did not flinch. 3 battle groups and 2 carrier arrays. A murmur impressed despite themselves. I leaned toward her. "They're baiting you. I am aware. You don't have to prove anything." "I must," she said quietly. "Not to them. To the Dominion." The Terralith fleet advanced faster than expected. Border skirmishes erupted. Trade routes destabilized. Panic flickered through civilian channels. And in the midst of it, House Vallis mobilized with ruthless efficiency. Arinth commanded from the bridge of her flagship, the Luminary Dawn. I stood behind her tactical station, officially an observer, unofficially offering strategic insights drawn from human asymmetric warfare models. They expect linear defense, I said as we analyzed terralith formations. Concentrated resistance along predictable vectors. Then we avoid predictability, she replied. Under her command, Celeran forces executed a series of fluid maneuvers, feigned retreats, flanking arcs, coordinated drone swarms. The terralith advance faltered. For the first time, the advisory circle began requesting her recommendations directly. Not as obligation, but as necessity. Breaking point. The decisive engagement occurred near the Arinder Expanse, a dense asteroid field rich in volatile minerals. Terralith forces attempted to push through, likely aiming to fracture Dominion cohesion. Arinth made a controversial choice. She ordered House Valis ships to enter the Expanse directly. Too unstable, a senior commander warned. Exactly, she replied. The asteroid field would neutralize the terralith advantage in heavy cruisers. But it also increased risk. As battle erupted among drifting stone and volatile debris, chaos reigned. Explosions lit the void. Celeran ships wove through narrow corridors of rock. Terralith formations broke apart. At one critical moment, a terralith dreadnought targeted the luminary dawn. Warning alarm screamed. Impact in 12 seconds, a tactical officer reported. There was no time to evade. I acted on instinct. Redirect auxiliary power to lateral thrusters, I shouted. Use the asteroid cluster to slingshot. Arinth didn't hesitate. Execute. The flagship surged sideways at the last possible second. The dreadnought's blast struck the asteroid cluster instead, triggering a chain reaction. Debris cascaded into terralith lines. Formation shattered. Within hours, the terralith fleet retreated. Victory belonged to the Dominion. And at its center stood House Valis. Ending the second hall. The Hall of Ascension was full again. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Not judgment. Recognition. House Valis banners hung proudly alongside the others. The advisory circle formally acknowledged Arinth's leadership during the crisis. Elder Kaler stepped forward. Princess Arinth Valis, he intoned, the Dominion recognizes your strength. A pause. House Kaler offers alliance. A murmur swept the hall. It was what had been denied before. What tradition demanded. All eyes turned to her. She stood beneath the same projected stars. But she was no longer alone. She glanced toward me at the hall's edge. Not seeking permission. Not seeking validation. Simply acknowledging presence. Then she faced the elder. I accept the Dominion's recognition, she said evenly. But I will not form alliance for optics. Silence. I will choose when and if I deem it aligned with the future of our people. Bold. Risky. Unapologetic. No house withdrew this time. No one turned away. Later, on a quiet balcony overlooking the capital, she joined me. You changed the trajectory of House Valis, I said. You stood when others would not. That was one gesture. It was the first. She studied the skyline. I once believed strength meant standing alone. And now I understand strength can also mean allowing someone to stand beside you. The words carried weight. Celeran alliances are complex, she continued. Genetic compatibility. Political calculus. I know. She turned fully toward me. But there are other forms of alliance. My pulse quickened. You don't owe me anything, I said softly. This is not debt. The city lights reflected in her eyes. When they turned away, she said, You did not. I couldn't. Why? Because you deserved better. A pause. Do you regret kneeling? She asked. I shook my head. Not for a second. She stepped closer. close enough that I could see the faint luminescent patterns beneath her skin shift gently. Then understand this, she said. House Valis stands not because of pity, not because of obligation. Then why? Because I chose to fight. And because someone reminded me I was not alone. The twin moons of Celerin Prime rose over the horizon. In the distance, ships moved peacefully along restored trade routes. The Dominion was stable. House Valis endured. And the princess who had once stood abandoned beneath artificial stars now stood illuminated by real ones. They had all turned away from her, except the human. And sometimes, that was enough to change the future of an empire.